Welcome to Monster Monday. I'm about to be a complete hypocritical douchebag. I first saw this film and was disappointed by it because it was mismarketed horribly as a monster movie. And here I pick it for Monster Monday. I know. But that being said, this is a monster movie. Spoilers, obviously, people. Spoilers. This is a monster movie. It's just not a monster movie in the way that people had thought it would be. They went to go see the Babadook monster, right? But the mom is the monster. But anyway, so I'm guessing you already have seen the runtime below. I don't know what the runtime is going to be right now, but I already know it's going to be long because I could talk about this movie for a long time, and I'm going to. I have so many notes here, it's insane. Probably the most I've ever taken on a film in my fucking whole time I've been doing this. So long that this might as well be a podcast. Well, I guess this is as good a time as any to announce that I am currently in production on a podcast with a couple of my friends. You've probably heard me mention their names plenty of times. That is Brad Thornton and Rebecca Reinhardt. We're trying to figure out all the details right now. I'm obviously in the process of moving, in case you didn't see my Slasher Sunday review. Yes, that is why these are empty. No one stole my shit. I'd be crying. I'd be in the fucking police department right now. Like, I want them dead. I'd be like, Liam Neeson and freaking Taken right now. I have a particular set of skills, like seriously, oh my God. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, this is one I would love to do a podcast on because there's so much to discuss. There's so much. Now, this is a film that is hated for a couple different reasons. Number one, and of course it has its fans, absolutely. There's people who adore this and love it, just like I do. I watched it my second time and loved it because I knew what to expect that second time. This is my third viewing, and I loved it even more. I think it is a flat-out masterpiece. Now, I totally understand the dislike towards this film because I was a person who walked out of this completely underwhelmed because of the marketing. Now, another reason that people hate this movie, and to me, they're completely missing the point because of this. And that is the most common, I'll be grammatically correct here, complaint I hear and see is I hated the fucking kid. I couldn't stand the kid. I wanted him dead. That is the point of the movie. That is why this film is so damn effective. This mother can't stand her fucking child. Do you know what that does to a parent? Every parent, I don't care what they tell you, has contemplated, do you love your child? Was this a mistake? There is moments we all have as parents. I'm a parent, so I get this movie more than maybe a person who doesn't have a child would. I completely get these moments where you're just done. You're finished with it all. There's also, it's a terrible thing. You never want to talk about it because you don't know how people are going to take it. They're going to look at you like you're a monster. And that's the way you feel in that moment. You feel so broken. But I have a wonderful co-parent. We haven't been able to work it out as a couple, but I couldn't have asked for a better mom to be a co-parent with. And so I get little breaks and I get, these kinds of, this help from her. This woman is by herself, and it's not like her husband just like left her or they broke up and he's out of the picture. Like, he died. He died taking her to the hospital to have to have this kid. And my stepfather growing up was a very abusive, ugly, horrible man. You know, we had our good times, but overall, he was not a good person. And I remember growing up listening to him talk about his father. His mother died giving birth to him, and his father blamed him for it. And I don't like to make excuses for people, and I don't like to be like, well, this is why he's like that, but that just weighs on you. And I mean, I don't know what his father was like. It doesn't really matter to me, honestly. I mean, anyone who do that to their child is fucked. I mean, I get where he's coming from, sort of, but you don't do it. Anyway, but I've never seen this story, the flip side of that, because I've seen the like, and I've lived in a way that like, you killed my wife, whatever, and that's what he used to tell him. Like, you killed my wife. Like, why couldn't it be you? Blah, blah, blah. Awful shit. Awful shit. But this is that other side of it, like, where we're taking that story and we're kind of flipping it around, and it's like, this woman is pregnant, she's being rushed to the hospital, and the husband is killed taking her there. And this film deals with so much different kinds of emotions. Guilt being, of course, probably number one. This is why I haven't even looked at my notes yet, but I have 2 full pages here of notes. I mean, I just did a 30-minute review on a movie, and it was only half a page of notes. Jesus Christ. All right, I'm going to try my best to make this quick as possible, honestly. But we all know that I can talk for a long time. Okay, so anyway. I mean, this film was so mismarketed, but also overhyped. And that is just a recipe for disaster. I'm surprised almost anyone but some critics like this movie. Because this was like sold as like the best horror movie of the year, which it probably might have been, honestly. But regardless, it was sold like that. And as soon as you do that, I remember Veronica having that curse put upon it. Netflix marketing it like as people can't even finish this movie and blah, blah, blah. That is just fucking so unfair to do to a film. Putting expectations, especially on horror films. Horror films, people want so desperately to prove like their toughness. When they hear this is the scariest movie ever made, they go into it like, yeah, right. Fuck that. I'm going to fucking be the one who isn't afraid of it. And so when the movie's on, it's like they're sitting there and they're like, yeah, give me your worst. I can take it. And then the movie just, of course, can't live up to that scariest thing ever made. And then they come out of it and they may have liked the movie before that. But after, it's like, fuck this movie. This movie sucks. It wasn't scary at all. Okay. But I don't know. That frustrates me. So okay, let's talk about the movie. Fuck. The overhyping of it really hurt this film a lot. Now, this is Jennifer Kent's directorial debut. Holy shit. There's so many great horror movies that have come out. In fact, most of the excellent, like art house type horror films that have come out, Hereditary and The Witch and stuff like that, they're all from directors in their first outing. I don't know. I mean, they're just, maybe they're one-hit wonders. Maybe like they saved all of it up front and then they won't make shit next. I don't know. But these are all excellent films, all so well crafted, and they're all from people who are just starting. So I look forward to seeing. I saw Jennifer Kent had some dramas in the works and whatnot. She did some Anyway, let's focus on the film. Fuck. All right. I'm trying. The music in this is really cool because it has like these almost like, like a music box, like for children playing within the horror, like the normal kinds of horror sounds. So because the Babadook is in like a child's story, and this is like the kid at first is kind of seeing this, so it's like a fairy tale, real dark fairy tale. It's got like fairy tale type music on top of like really heavy hitting horror sounds, and I love the blend of those two things together. It really suits the film well, talking about the subject matter, because in one way it's like this really dark fairy tale, but in this other way it's like this really like heavy, depressing freaking film about guilt and anyway. All right. And of course, I mean, Essie Davis, Jesus Christ, is she not just incredible in this film? The fact that the Academy Awards won't even look at a film like this to even like give it a chance pisses me off. I want to see Toni Collette this year for Hereditary get at least looked at. Jesus Christ, please. I know horror movies are trash. The 80s kind of killed any respect horror had built. I'm not going to get too into that because I'll go on for like an hour about that. The kid in this is incredible because he's so insufferable. He makes you hate him. Hate. I am sitting here like, oh my God, I want to fucking strangle this kid. But he's basically like a kid at his worst. My two kids have been like this kid many a time. They're just not always like that. So he's just like how my kids are when they drive me to the brink of fucking insanity, but he just doesn't stop. If my kids never stopped, and I was dealing with the loss of my wife, who I was crazy about, and he was connected to that death, and his birthday reminds me of that death, and he just keeps getting worse, and he's so insufferable. I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, obviously, I don't think I'd kill the kid, but you would have to start thinking about like giving it up for adoption or whatever. That's just, oh my God, the stress she feels, the loneliness, all of that, all those themes are hit upon here. All right, but anyway, if you're not a parent, I think that this is a horror film for parents. Like, for real. Like, I think if you're not a parent, you're not going to get this movie as well. I'm not going to sit here and be like, if you're not a parent, you won't understand this movie, and you might. No, you could totally get this movie, absolutely. I just think if you're a parent, you'll get it just a little more. You won't understand those restless nights. The way that they do her restlessness in this. Let's talk about that. These like sped up shots of her laying under the covers, and then it just like fast forwarding time, almost like Paranormal Activity. And then the sun coming up, and then the kid coming in the room and being like, Mom, wake up, it's 9. And she just pulls off the covers, and it's like, what the fuck happened to the time? I don't feel like I slept. She may not have slept. It's like a time warp. It's like all of her private time, all of the things that she looks forward to, all the things she needs in her life, sexual release, flirtation, interaction with other adults. All of those things are being stripped from her by her child, by this, this incessant, like, leech who just needs and needs and needs and takes and gives nothing. And it's so on display here. It really just takes all of the awfulness of being a parent and stretches it into like 90 straight minutes and it's elongated over a long period of time, and it just eats at you, and you're like, I fucking get it. Oh my God, I've been there, but she just never gets to those places. You can see I take this a little more seriously than someone who isn't. I'm already at 15 minutes. Jesus Christ, I haven't even touched like 1/10 of my notes. Okay, hurry up. Sorry. I want a fucking like 2-hour podcast about this. Maybe I'll think about that again. Anyway, her dream sequence at the beginning. I mean, this really is like an effective way to tell us what she's dealing with without any words. Like, we see the husband, we see the car, he's telling her a couple things. I mean, there's words spoken there, but there's no like exposition. It's just like you see a little bit, and you see the lights. You don't have to see the crash. You don't have to hear it. It just pulls her out of it. And you just know in that moment when that bed's empty next to her and that kid's crying and there's no one to help, and it's like, she died. That dude died taking her to the hospital for this kid. And that's his birthday. And all the, like, you connect the dots so instantly. And I love that. Such effective filmmaking. So few little things have to be done. And it's just in the way she's like falling into the bed out of her dreams, and like her bed, because like that's it. Like, you kind of see her floating into her bed. Our bed is our escape when you're a parent. You have nothing else but rest, sleep. Like, that's the break you get. You know, you look forward to your sleep because your kid finally goes to bed and you just lay in your bed and it's just like you're fucking falling into a cloud, and you're just like, please, just take me away into some fucking fantasy, man. Just get me away from this nightmare. I know I'm selling parenting right now. There's tons of great shit about kids, and I love my kids. It might sound like I don't, but I do, and I absolutely am glad that I have them, for sure. But you'll understand if you're a parent. If you're not a parent, you're like, oh my God, I'm going to call social services on this guy. No, you get it. Anyway. And then, yeah, that separation between her and her son is just so symbolic of that distance that's between her and him in that moment, and mentally for her. Like, he's in the bed and he's like grinding his teeth, and just even when he's asleep, he's fucking annoying to her. And she's just like trying, like, she doesn't want to leave him. She doesn't want to get out of bed because that's her child, and she wants to be like in the vicinity because that's what we should do, right? We want to be next to our child, but she gets as fucking far away from him as the bed will allow. And, the symbolisms and the metaphors, oh my God, there's so many. I'm not usually a person that's crazy into that stuff, but for some reason this one really works, probably because I have children. And then that's it right there. Like, that's also something right there. When you see that separation between them, it then, boom, says the Babadook across the screen, right? So it's like the Babadook was created in that moment. The title itself, to me, is like the creation moment of the Babadook. I know I'm stretching on this. I know I'm probably grasping at straws here. But that's how I took it. Like, she came to her breaking point in that moment. And in that moment, she created the Babadook. And that's why the title comes on the screen in that moment. That's my own interpretation. I've never watched any breakdown videos of this movie or anything, or interviews or fucking commentaries. Does it even have a commentary? Nope. So, I don't know if a director would say that or not, but whatever. Anyway, that's what I noticed on this viewing. I've noticed so much more in this viewing, and this is what films like this do. They're just better and better with each viewing. And the look when the kid goes up to the woman in the store, and she, Essie comes over and she's just like, "What's going on?" And the kid says, like, about her his dead dad, and she's like, "Well, you're so lucky to have him." And just the look she has on her face. That look of like, just, oh yeah, I'm real fucking lucky. Like, it's so subtle. It's so subtle. And that is where a lot of her brilliance in this acting comes from. Not just so much the screaming and the intense moments when she's doing like the Jack Torrance Shining thing at the end. That's all excellent, don't get me wrong. But the subtleties of her performance, the slow mental breakdown of this person throughout the film is what this film is why this film is so effective. and why it's such a great horror movie. Because there's tons of horror movies I talk about that I enjoy, and they're fun, and they're this and that. But this is a true horror film because it is about things that are actually scary. Losing your mind and hurting your family, hurting a loved one, hurting your child because of that is horror. Okay? Like, I get it, a guy chasing with you with a chainsaw and all that. It's very... No, I don't know. That's solely different. This, to me, is true horror. This is a true horror film. It's a Shining. It's something like that. It's old school horror. It takes its time. It builds its characters. It builds its tension. It never releases any of that tension. There's no false scares. There's no, even when the first time she sees the Babadook in full form, when it's standing in her neighbor's closet across the way, when she's looking at her neighbor and she's kind of trying to almost live vicariously through her, whatever she's doing in that moment, she's just kind of fixating on a house away. She sees the Babadook. And there's no music. Any of these cheap ass horror movies today would be like, no, it just lets you see it and it lets you take it in. It doesn't cue you. Those big loud noises in movies, and I'm not saying this movie's without it, but those big loud noises in movies, like in moments like that when they're not needed, remind me of laugh tracks in shows. I fucking hate laugh tracks. And there's a huge difference between a laugh track and recorded in front of a live studio audience, okay? There's a big difference to me. Those people are really there. These people are telling you when to laugh like you're a fucking idiot and you need to be told when a joke is funny, okay? And laughter is contagious. It would be like adding screams to a movie. I'm surprised someone hasn't tried that. Like, oh, we're just going to cue you up to scream here because this is where we're going to think you're going to scream. So we'll have it pretend like this is in front of a live audience. Like, listen to a live audience screaming. Like, and the screams. I wonder if that would actually be effective. Fuck, it probably would for some people. Ugh. Anyway, okay. Moving on. Probably should edit this out. Yeah, so she doesn't recognize the book when she sees it. Now, the Babadook is made up of her husband's clothing that he has. He has the Houdini poster on the wall and whatnot. I'm guessing her husband was into magic or something because the Houdini poster, I'm gonna guess, was probably his, and the kid is watching his old videos and whatnot. And there's a really beat up, tattered, like top hat that a magician would wear. So I have to assume that her husband was a magician or just did that for fun, whatever. And yeah, the Babadook is kind of comprised of his clothing that they still have around the house. We see some of it up on the thing. It's the hat that the kid's wearing. It's all of these things. And a buddy of mine on Killer Flicks asked me, Corey, he was like, well, what do you think about the Babadook wearing the clothes? And what I told him, and I'm glad he asked me this question because it made me kind of think about it. I told him that what I think is probably, or what is possible here, is that the Babadook represents the father and the disdain that she has for him leaving her with this impossible child, and the fact that the child is probably only impossible because he's gone, and the guilt she feels for not only hating a man who, only died, like he didn't like bail, he didn't fucking do this, like he died. There's nothing that he could have done about that, but she hates him for this. Like, how fucking dare you die and leave me with this? And she also hates her child. So that guilt that weighs on her, all of this pent up stuff. Because throughout the film, you can see she has repressed all of this. Anytime anyone brings it up, so her sister says this when she's at this birthday party, and the women that are there, they're like, they bring him up and she loses it. She snaps on them like instantly. And the sister's like, anytime anyone tries to bring him up, you lose it. And it's because she's never, ever dealt with it. And it's just building inside of her, and she's projecting a lot of that, anger onto her child, which is, of course, she's making him this way as well. This is a parenting issue as well of why this kid is as bad as he is, because she has become slowly and surely is becoming more and more of a monster to the point where she actually becomes one. So thank you for Corey for asking me that, because the clothes thing I didn't think of until he said that, and I was like, well, probably because of these things. Even interrupts her masturbation. I already kind of went over that with her, like him taking away her sexual release or whatever. The kid is kind of he's not responsible, but in her mind, because she has to be rushed to the hospital to have him, he's kind of responsible for the death of her child, kind of like what I was talking about earlier with my stepfather. And so here she's trying to have this moment to masturbate, and the kid runs in and takes this from her. So it's like he took her lover. He's so impossible that she can't date, so she can't replace her lover. And when she tries to get any kind of sexual release, which is what a lover would bring her, he steals that from her as well. So she doesn't get any of it. And the book, when the kid chooses the book and they're reading through it and she's just flipping and he's like, does it have a happy ending? This book just terrifies this kid. But this kid's already susceptible to this anyways. He's already looking for a monster in the house. And, this was the perfect way to bring it. Now, she says she doesn't recognize the book. Did the book appear because she created this monster, and the monster that comes with it creates the book? Was it a shared delusion between her and her son? Did the child, bring the book home unbeknownst to her, and she attached her demons to it? Was it a book they just previously owned that she just straight up didn't recognize? And from there, she made it more monstrous than it was, because she tears it up and then it comes back to her doorstep and pages have been added to it that are even more sinister and show the future of what is possibly going to happen, some of which does. Could she have possibly done this in her, her sleepless nights or insomnia-ridden nights where she doesn't seem to know what she's doing because she went back out there, taped it back up, and personally handcrafted more? Did she create the book herself in the first place? There's so many ways that I think that could be interpreted, which is fun. It's just fun to go through. Okay, guys, I'm like 1/3 through my notes. Fuck. This will be my longest review ever if it keeps up like this. She finds glass in her soup bowl. Holy shit, did this kid put that in there? Did she fucking put it in her own soup and maybe gave it to herself accidentally? Like, that's a way to maybe possibly take that. Did she, in her moments when she was fucking losing it, did she break something, or did glass break something? And there was a broken window. That's right. He breaks the window. Right. When she tells him to stop, he breaks the window, and then they find glass in the soup, which the window, it broke out, so I don't see how glass could have fallen in. It's possible that this was the first time she tried to hurt the kid, and she accidentally gave the bowl to herself, or the kid possibly hurt her, or the Babadook, which seems to be real. It's possible it's not. It's all in her head. But I don't know. The way this movie ends and all the things that are happening, as I said, it could still be in her head. But the kid's being pulled up the stairs, that's a tough one. I think the Babadook, that's hard. I don't know. Does it exist? Does it not? That's up for debate. I would say it probably does. Even though this is super metaphorical and symbolic, I still think it does exist. I think she creates the monster. But I don't know. I'm up for either version. But But yeah, the soup. That's interesting. I never thought about that. But yeah, see, I'm even thinking of other things as I'm speaking. The glass breaks. It's in the soup. Who put it there? Who put it there? You tell me what you think. And do you think the Babadook is real or not? There's another good question. You tell me. This guy who has a crush on her clearly, and she seems to have some feelings for him as well, lets her have the day off work, and she goes out, and it's just like this nice break, and she's out in the light, and it's so wonderful. And she goes and she sits in her car, just take a fucking breath, and she looks at this couple who's making out, and she's seeing what she doesn't have and what she misses, and that freedom of before children, when you're in love and you have time to make out in a car. That shit all goes away when you have kids. Okay? It all goes away. And she's just fantasizing about it. And then they look over and she's like, oh, fuck. And she looks at the phone and 10 missed calls. And it's like, fuck. Like, I can't even take 5 seconds to myself. This has happened. Like, where you go to the movies. I remember I went to the movies. I went to go see fucking second Hunger Games movie. Catching Fire. And boom. And Paranormal Activity, the Ghost Dimension, another thing. You fucking get phone calls or you get texts from the person who's watching your kid. And they're like, your kid's fucking freaking out. I can't handle him, whatever. And you're like, 20 minutes in the movie, 30 minutes in the movie. And you're like, fuck. I will admit that I ignored the text when I was watching Paranormal Activity. I was like, yeah, she can handle it. She can handle it. It was her mom, and her mom's just very quick to be like, no. And I was just like, and I called her. I'm like, oh, I didn't see her text. She'll probably watch this. This will be the only review she ever watches. And she's like, you motherfucker. Oh, I needed a break. I needed a fucking break. All right. Anyway. And, oh, man, I mean, yeah, he shoves his mom down, and she's like, do you want to die? I've had moments like this with my kids where they say something, and you're like, what the fuck did you just say? Or they say something horrible. I mean, the first time your kid tells you they hate you, you don't think it's going to affect you as much as it does. But man, hearing your kids say the word I hate you is a really tough thing to experience, because you give them your whole life. And you're like, do you know what I fucking sacrificed for you and you have to go? People are just going to think that I'm getting my hatred out for my kid in this video, but that's just not true. Tell yourself whatever you have to, man, to justify. No. And oh man, her sister hates her kid. Like, she says it outright. Like, I can't stand being around your kid. Fuck. And then we have a Halloween 4 moment in here, where this kid goes up and her sister's kid, her little niece, goes up and starts antagonizing her cousin, and she's like, what does she say? She says stuff like, I wrote it down somewhere around here, like, you don't have a dad, like, he fucking left you because he hates you, and all. Like, oh my god, it reminded me obviously of little Jamie Lloyd, when the kids were chasing her around the school, like, your mom, your dad, your uncle's the boogeyman, and Jamie's mom, he's a mummy, and like, you don't have a dad. Like, oh my god, who the fuck? What kid is that evil to give kids shit for having a dead parent? A dead parent. Oh my god. That scene pisses me off so much in Halloween 4. I can't handle it. I'm like, I want these kids fucking dead. Oh, and this moment, it's like, push that little bitch out the fucking treehouse too. Are you kidding me? But yeah, of course it came at like the worst moment possible. Her sister's divulging to her, like, I hate your kid. And then she pushes her out of the treehouse, and this girl has a broken nose and bleeding, and she's just like, get that kid the fuck out of here. And she, and then it cuts. Like, it's so, like, the way the frantic cutting of certain moments in this movie are just great. Because it, like, there's that moment where he's in the treehouse, and she's like, wouldn't believe me, and then it just hard cuts to him kicking her seat and screaming in the back seat. That right there, I get it. I get when people are like, I fucking hated this kid. I hated this movie because I hate this kid and I can't take it. And it's like, that's right. That's the point. And that's why I love this performance from this kid. From her, it just it boils it all down. It's like a condensed can of like of everything wrong with being a parent, and it's just, I don't know, it eats at you. I love it. All right. And then he has heat stroke, and so she goes to the doctor with him, and he prescribes her these pills to put the kid to sleep. And she does. She drugs her child. She pushes the doctor by crying, drugs her child, and, you know, then gets a great night of sleep. And then she goes in, it's like 11 o'clock, and she goes in, the kid's still asleep, and she is just luminous. She loves every second of this. And this is when the Babadook enters her life. This is when the Babadook comes to the door. It's in that moment when she has done something despicable. She has drugged her child just so she could get a night of sleep. She's basically taking sleeping pills through him. And she loves it. When she goes in, she is just elated that he's still asleep, and she can just walk downstairs in the silence. But what she's done is terrible. And so this moment is like the Babadook is created in like tangible, like it's, you know, exists, leaves the book on the doorstep, like knocks on the door. I love that moment. For me, it's just like she's finally snapped. Even though, like, and that's just it. It's like, it doesn't seem like it because she's just like so whimsical and happy. And it's like, oh, it's just trying to bring her back down. For me, no. It's the exact opposite. It's because she just did something the first time, which is absolutely despicable. And I get it. I totally understand the moment. I totally understand where she's coming from. And it's like, oh, yeah. And the doctor doesn't even want to do it. He's like, okay, I guess he probably needs a good night of sleep or whatever. Whatever. All right. And then when the kid later, he says, I love you. Because when she goes through the book, as I said, there's been pages added where the dog is getting its neck snapped and the kid is getting strangled to death and all this. And then, of course, the dog thing comes true, which is so evil. She snaps the dog's neck and it falls to the ground limp. Ooh, I hate dog deaths in a movie. But that one was pretty freaking gnarly, so I don't know. And then, yeah, the kid says, I love you. And she just is like, yeah, me too. Like, she can't say I love you to her kid. Oh, man. And then she gets the phone call, the Babadook, Dook, Dook, and that voice. The sound design in this movie is so great. Oh, I can't say enough good about it. And then, oh man, this moment where she goes to lay down, she's so beat, she's so over it. And the kid comes in and he's feeling sick because these drugs that she keeps giving him to try to get more sleep is making him ill. He's like, Mom, I'm sick to my stomach and I'm supposed to take this with food. And she just is sitting there and she's like, goes back to sleep, tries to go back to sleep as her kid is pleading with her, Mom, these drugs are making me sick. And she's like, turns around and screams at him, why don't you go eat shit? Like, it's those moments where it's just like you've been there. Like, your kid won't leave you alone. It just wants more. But my God, the fact that she's drugging this child and she's ignoring it is so horrible. It's so fucking horrible. And she just has no remorse. And then she comes in and she's like, I'm so sorry. Like, this is her first moment where she's like starting to feel even more guilt, which is building on top of the guilt. And more guilt and more guilt. Oh, Jesus Christ. And she even, during that moment, she kind of shows the audience that she's actually the Babadook or becoming the Babadook, because she's like, you talk, talk, talk. Like the dook, dook, dook. Like, I love that. I love that little subtlety to it. Where it just feels like she's so exacerbated that she's just like, you know, like she's just repeating herself. But no, it's like it's kind of a callback to the Babadook. And then, yeah, they're driving back, and there's this, like, and she's driving with the kid. She runs into a car and just drives off. She's just like, can't deal with anything. I don't know how she doesn't get arrested for that. It doesn't come up later in the film, but I guess that guy didn't see who she was. Then she goes and she gets in the bath fully dressed. I've definitely wanted to do that a couple times in my life. And then the kid's like trying to call out of the house, and she comes and she cuts the phone line. And then the neighbor comes in, and this is such a great moment because that neighbor coming and breaking that, you think she's snapped out of it. But in that moment, she's just like, I'm going to let you be with your dad. It's beautiful there. And she goes to fucking start strangling the kid. And then he just stabs her like right in the chest. And it's awesome. You just don't see that much. A kid just stabbing his mother. And she's like, I'm sorry, Mom. And then she chases him down. And he freaking uses all the Babadook traps to knock her out and tie her up. And she's down there and she's screaming. And she gets a hold of the kid and she's fucking strangling him. And then he just strokes her face like he does earlier in the movie. And that brings her out of it. And she vomits him out like this black sludge that is burning inside of her. And you think like, oh, that's going to be it. She got rid of the curse. Oh no, that just freed him from her body. He's like, all right, you don't want to do this? And I'll fucking do it. I also love that when she's watching the TV, I forgot to mention this, she's watching Black Sabbath, the Mario Bava classic with the scariest face ever. And what scene do they use? From the freaking Drip of Water, isn't that what it's called? Oh my God, the face. Of course, they use the face. Of course, Jennifer Kent had to use that face because it's the fucking scariest face ever. Oh, I love that they used that. Anyway, the way the Babadook moves, where it's just like floating through the air, and it's just like, and I know there's a lot of complaints because of how it was marketed. It's a monster movie, whatever. I want to see the Babadook. I went to see the Babadook. Where's the fucking monster? I don't know, like, I could have seen this less. I honestly think I could have never seen the Babadook at all in the film, and I don't know if it would have changed the film that much for me. I'm fine with what I saw. I think it's great. I think it's creepy. I think it's effective. And I would have liked to have seen it a little. I'm not saying I did. I'm just saying that if it wasn't in the movie at all, if it was all in our imagination, if we only saw it in the drawings and it was always in the corners and you just saw the shadows and you just saw an arm movement and you saw little bits of movement, you're like, what did I see? If we never actually saw it directly on, I don't know. I don't know if it would have changed the film. I think the film would just be as brilliant as it is. It would just be like, I kind of wish I got to see it a little bit maybe. I don't know. I'd have to go to a parallel universe where we didn't see it and see what I have to say. Like, would I be pissed when we never saw it? I don't know. But I just, when people are like, oh, I don't think we saw it, like, we should have saw the Babadook way more. No, I don't think so. I think it would have lost its effectiveness. I think it's shown just the right amount. Just the right amount for this film. Anyway. And I think that's oh, we're making it on to the next. She finally pulls her tooth. She's been fucking with this tooth. Oh my God, tooth pain on top of that kid. I've dealt with tooth pain. I have a lot of missing teeth because I had to have them pulled from all this. Oh my God, no way. Then it kind of turns into The Shining. She's chasing her kid around the house. She's going fucking crazy, and she's coming after him. It's very, very Jack Torrance, and it is excellent. My good God, this is where Essie Davis shines in this movie, is in that scene. She's fantastic throughout the whole rest of the film, no doubt. But yeah, this is that moment where she just has the final, this is the climax. This is what we've been waiting for. This is what it's been building to. That's why this is great horror. It builds, and it climaxes, right? What else does that sound like? People, all the best things in life. And then she even moves like the Babadook, where she's flying across, stuff like that. So that's super, super cool. And then the voice that she's using and all that stuff. And this is before that, I know, but I forgot to mention it. And then yeah, she runs up and the thing pulls her up the kid up the stairs and across the room and all that. That's why I'm saying, like, did this thing has to exist, right? And then yeah, she's like fucking grabs the kid, pulls her over, and then like the whole back of the room becomes black and it looks like just this empty void. it goes out forever and you don't know what's back there, and she's just like holding the kid, and it's like trying to pull it, and he grabs it, and she stands there and she's like, you're nothing. Like, she is getting over her fear of this thing. She's letting this guilt out. She's letting it all fucking leave her. She's dealing with what's built up inside of her for so long, and she's like, if you touch my kid again, I'll fucking kill you. And this thing screams, and it's bringing these like huge wing looking things, and then it fucking drops to the ground, and she goes over and she looks at it, and it like screams and comes up out of frame and leaves and goes back down into the basement from whence it came. And then it goes to a later time where she, a couple days later or a day later something, and it's bright and it's luminous, and she's finally starting to deal with what happened, and the social service workers are there, and she's talking to them, and she's letting her kid be her kid. She's not trying to restrict him. There's things about him that are like his father, and she didn't like those things. She never liked the magic. She didn't like any of that stuff because it reminded her of her husband. But in this moment, she's letting him be him. She's dealing with, she's giving him the birthday party that he never had because she couldn't deal with what that day meant to her. And so they're sitting there, and the kid's just being awful, and what you would consider awful, being like, my dad died, and blah blah blah. And she's just like, he speaks his mind like his father. Like, she's accepting the father and acknowledging all that, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful to see her finally dealing with all of these things and letting that grief go. And then, they go outside, and he's performing magic tricks, and they're just having a blast together. Like, they're finally just enjoying each other's company, and they love one another again. And they're happy to have one another. And then she goes down, and the Babadook. Now, this is another thing that's totally open for interpretation here. But yeah, and also, like, they're celebrating the birthday alone because they've kind of scared off everyone else. But that's to be expected. But she goes down into the basement, and she gives the Babadook some worms. And it comes out and it screams and it's knocking her backwards, and she's like, it's okay, whatever. And it comes up and it goes back into the corner and sucks the bowl over and starts eating. And the way that I interpret that scene, of course there could be lots of different ways to interpret this, but it could be either A, that this thing feeds off of hatred, and love is what vanquishes it, because she rubs her face and she accepts the love, whatever, or guilt or whatever, and she vomits this thing out, like, love conquers the demon or whatever. That's a possibility. Or the nurturing, like she's nurturing this thing like she never did her child, and it's just furthering, like, that she's beyond that. And it's keeping it at bay, it's keeping it in the corner, it's keeping it docile. I don't know. There's a few different ways I guess you could take that. They're both pretty similar though, so that's the way I see that is she's kind of just, she's moving on, and this thing can't feed off of her anymore. And it tries to like scream in her face, it tries to scare her, it tries what it can, and she's just like, no, it's okay. And it just it reverts back to its corner and just waits. And she has like all these extra locks that she's put on the door and everything to like keep it down there just in case. But she's down there nurturing it. She's down there. They don't move away. It's only been like 2 weeks. Who knows what they'll do in the future? But that's kind of how I took that. And I also, when it's on the ground, it makes the noise that kid makes in her ear. And she's like, don't do that. I don't know what that was. I don't know if it was like her husband's thing or what, but... yeah, anyways, okay, I think I'm going to wrap this up because I have a lot of shit written. I probably skipped over some of it, but it doesn't matter if this went on long enough. Probably my longest review ever. I think it is. Anyways, I just really, really wanted to talk about it, but I was talking about it as long as the film itself. No, not that long, but yeah, so hopefully... podcast will be coming soon. I pretty much just did one. I'm sure that's how a lot of you watch this or listen to this anyways. Threw it on in your car I was like, this guy hates his children. Anyway, guys, all right. Adios.